Now we're going to look at the life cycle of employment, looking at retirement. So because market productivity as measured by wages and household productivity vary over the life cycle, people vary the hours they supply between the two. Just as when at any given time, the decision of when to work involves comparing the market versus home productivity over that time. And people will tend to do the most market work when their market productivity is high relative to their home productivity. All right, so what does that all mean? So if we look here, we have market productivity over a lifetime. So this is on the part A here. That's how productive people tend to be over their lifetime. And that's measured as far as take-home pay. So early on in your career, you see your pay rising, and then it peaks. Now, when it peaks is going to vary by person. Now, it tends to not be the case where it's depicted here, where it goes up about half the time and then down half the time. For the most part, your pay goes up through the most of your career and then starts to wind down a little bit towards the end of your career as you cut back maybe, or if you are impacted by a industry that is declining and so there's less demand, or whatever the reason. But this gives you a basic idea of market productivity over your lifetime. Now if you look at that, this can be applied looking at time you spend between time at paid work and time at home, again by age. And so what you tend to see is your time at paid work being roughly following the same patterns rather as your time, or as your market productivity over those ages. And so again, you have those set amount of hours in a day, and where you see the largest difference between the time spent at work and the time spent at home is when workers are most productive. Because again, talking about leisure or household production, the opportunity cost of each hour of leisure or in household production is going to be your wage, because you're giving that up by being at home. So let's talk about retirement for a second. So first, the retirement age. In addition to deciding when to work, workers must also decide when to stop working for good. This decision is important because of yearly benefits, expected lifetime benefits they would receive, and lifetime earnings are affected by the retirement age. And now, the term lifetime or expected lifetime benefits are what is promised to the worker after that worker retires. So with these lifetime benefits, the idea is that once you retire, you will be eligible to start collecting these benefits. And when you look at these benefits, you must always account for the growth of the money due to interest. So a worker's retirement incentives are going to depend on three factors. One, the expected income they would get from retiring. Two, the change in the sum of income if they put off retiring, so if they wait longer, how much better off are they? And three, preferences. So preferences of having more household time versus purchased goods. So this looks at a hypothetical male, he's 60 years older with a yearly wage of $40,000, interest rate, life expectancy 17 years. So this shows this worker's, oops, I shouldn't say 17, should probably say 70. So this shows the workers' benefits they would get from retiring now or at different ages. And so if the worker retires at 62, they will receive yearly Social Security benefits of $10,752. At 63, it'll be a little more than $11,000. 64, so on and so forth. So the way Social Security works is if you retire at a later age, you will get higher yearly payments for each year that you're retired and can collect them. Now, the problem though is when you retire and collecting those benefits, you are giving up your earnings. Right, so you're giving up those earnings. And let's say, I don't know if it has it here. No, it doesn't. So then if you were to retire at 62, okay, you'd be giving up all those earnings. So your earnings would be 0. If you were to retire at 63, however, you would still be collecting those earnings when you were 62 years old. Okay. If you were to retire at 64, you would collect earnings when you were 62 and 63. Now you'd be giving up those yearly Social Security benefits, but in exchange of that, you would be collecting a higher yearly amount after that. So then this just shows the Social Security benefits over your lifetime as you retire. Okay, or if you retire at certain years. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so this life expectancy is 17 years after, I guess, 62. So when we look at that, you can see that initially, when you put off retiring a couple years, given this expectation, you expect to receive a higher total amount of Social Security benefits. Now, on top of that, your total, which is your Social Security benefits plus your earnings, is going to be going up much higher. Because if you're making, just an example, $39,000 a year, well, if you retire at 63 instead of 62, you're going to give up that $10,000, but you're going to be making $39,000 in earnings from that year. Plus, you're going to get all the extra money from higher Social Security payments. So for all these reasons, that's why you see the total amount going up at a very rapid pace. And the goal of this is to entice people to actually put off retirement as long as they can. So this just shows an example here, and A, B, J, let me do this here, and so A, B, J, that's this budget constraint here is a representation of lifetime earnings based on the previous table that we looked at. And so you can see here that as you retire, and this is retirement age, let me do this here. And go there. So retirement age shows down here and household time here. So the later you retire, the higher your benefits. And based off of this example here, based off your preferences, you would expect that you'd be at point D and retire, let's just say 64 in 2 months. Now let's say that Social Security increased. And so now the starting amount that you could get with Social Security went up. Well, what would happen? Well, now our budget constraints becomes A, B prime, F prime, or sorry, it's J prime rather. And we would choose this point here, and you would see that you would retire earlier. And so this is basically, in this case, a pure income effect. And so on the other side, though, if the benefits were to go down, let's just say that they went down here, something like that. Okay. Or actually, down here like that. And then we would go something like that, and we would retire later. And so these show that the ways that Social Security is set up can have implications on how long somebody ends up working and when they decide to retire. And so there's always a lot of discussion about how to address Social Security. And if you're able to entice people to work longer, then it's a lot of time the goal. That way, it's the payouts may be a little bit less or more, depending on what the system is. But this just gives you a broad overview of that.